Good morning, everybody. We're going to go ahead and start our specially called meeting, Monday, December 30th at 10 a.m. At this time, I'll ask for the roll call from our clerk.
Please state your name for the record. Member from the City of Colton.
Jack Woods.
Thank you. Member from the City of Loma Linda.
Ovi Popescu.
Thank you. Member from the County of San Bernardino, 3rd District.
John Rao.
Thank you. Members from the City of Highland.
Penny Lilburn.
Thank you. And members from the City of San Bernardino.
John Valdivia.
Theodore Sanchez.
Thank you very much.
Very good. At this time, I'll ask all members to please stand, and I'll ask Mayor Lilburn to lead us in a Pledge of Allegiance.
Please join me as we pledge to our great country. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Very good. Thank you, Mayor Lilburn.
Thank you.
This time, we'll go into our conflict of interest disclosure. Are there any members wishing to note a conflict? Moving on to our commission action items. This time, before we begin, I will recognize Mr. Huber regarding public comments. Mr. Huber.
Regarding public comment, there will be a time for public comment for items that are on the agenda. As you'll notice, for most regular meetings, you're required to offer comments for items that are not on the agenda. That is not a requirement for a special meeting, and we have omitted that from this agenda intentionally because it is not required. The only comments that are appropriate today are those that are for items that are on the agenda, and the only item we have is ratifying the final form of a ground lease agreement signed between the San Bernardino International Airport Authority and Hillwood Enterprises for the Eastgate Air Cargo Facility. What is not on the agenda is discussion of the environmental analysis that was done, the environmental impact report that was done and previously approved, the NEPA process, the CEQA process. Those are not part of this agenda. They're not agendized. And so while I will not stop members of the public from talking about that, it is technically not appropriate to bring up by a member of the commission or staff. So the only item that's on the agenda and the only item that's appropriate for public comment is the ground lease that is attached to the agenda.
Okay, very good. With those ground rules in order, I'm going to ask that our public comment speakers, we do have more than 40. We want to encourage public comments, and we certainly appreciate our public comments and your attendance here today. If there is a sense of redundancy, you can waive your privilege, but I will begin calling folks to the podium. Our first public comment speaker and request to speak is from Roberto Talavera, followed by Prince, followed by Jim Imbrowski. Roberto, welcome.
Now, Mr. Mayor, if I might, while the speaker's coming up, if anyone needs translation services, we do have a translator available, and they will be offered, again, 3 minutes for public comment. If translation services are needed, up to 6 minutes will be available for translation services. Time may not be shared among speakers, so we can't have a speaker defer their time to someone else. It's 3 minutes per speaker, and I will, as a courtesy, because I know that the speakers will be addressing their comments to the commission, as a courtesy to the speaker, I will give a 1 minute warning in the event that the comments go beyond into the 1 minute so that they know they've got 1 minute left to wrap up, and then I'll let them know when the time has expired.
Very good. Roberto.
So, there? I don't know if that's, okay. So, my name is Roberto Talavera. I am a person of the community that is worried, obviously.
Can you speak directly into the microphone, please?
There? Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, sorry. Okay, so I am worried. Worried because the people who were elected to represent our community are not doing their job. Sorry. they did not do their job by not informing the community of what was happening. They did not do their job because they chose to represent the, I'm sorry, they chose to represent the interest of the people that didn't have our, I guess, needs in mind. The people who chose to take advantage of the needs for jobs of our community. Sorry, I'm bad at this. The environment is already bad. We already know that. Everybody is suffering from it. There's schools that have air filters which should not be needed. I'm sorry. There's people here that, well, right now they're taking time out of the job. They're taking time out of spending time with their loved ones, and these times, which is like Christmas and between New Year, they should be with their families, taking care of them, making sure that they're fine. But instead, they have to be here having to advocate for themselves because you're not choosing to do what's right, you know? Like, I understand that y'all don't live in this community, or not all of y'all do. So y'all don't really see the struggle that we're in. Y'all don't really have to experience our troubles, but y'all were elected for this to represent our communities, and you know, that's not right.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, that's
Our next speaker is Prince, I'm sorry about the last name, Prince Ogidaki, and Jim Ambroski, Deborah Barmack. Welcome, sir.
Good morning. My name is Prince Ogidikwe. I am a field representative representing Assembly Member Eloise Reyes. I will be reading a statement from the Assembly Member. I proceed. In April and August, I wrote a letter expressing my concerns about the direct environmental impacts of the East Gate Air Cargo Logistics Center project on the people living in the surrounding communities, including those in the 47th Assembly District, of which I serve. I am disappointed to hear that even with the deep concerns from the community members, the San Bernardino International Airport Authority is holding this important special meeting during the holiday season without proper notice. Progress and development are welcomed words in any community, but the progress and development should be for the benefit of the community and should never leave the community in a worse condition. The proposed lease agreement with Hillwood that is being voted on today does not include several job quality measures and air quality impact mitigation measures that have been demanded by community members. No commitments from the developer for mitigation efforts such as air filtration systems for schools, double-pane windows, and reductions in idling time for trucks and planes. No commitment to job training and good jobs for local residents or for zero emissions. The lease does require Hillwood to report the number of jobs created, but there is no commitment for any specifics regarding the number of jobs, job training, or whether they are livable wage or permanent jobs. The lease allows Hillwood alone to claim all tax credits and benefits of the East Gate project with no benefits to the community. The lease gives Hillwood the right to use our airport runways, taxiways, ramps, public highways, and streets, and brings significant airplane and truck pollution for decades to come. These are all the things that should be included or negotiated prior to a lease agreement. In light of the irreversible health and quality of life impact this project can have on the surrounding communities, I respectfully request that the SBIAA commissioners table today's vote until you have properly reviewed and studied the FAA's NEPA and environmental conclusions and ensure that a community benefits agreement is part of the proposed lease agreement. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is Jim Ambroski and Deborah Barmack.
Can I ask just to come out of order to just echo what he said?
Have you submitted a slip? Sure.
My
My name is Michael Townsend. I represent State Senator Connie Leyva. And because her statement is essentially the same as that that was read by Assemblymember Eloise Reyes, field rep, I'd like to just echo his statements and enter that into the record.
Thank you.
So I'm speaking specifically in my official capacity as representing Senator Connie Leyva.
Thank you, Mr. Townsend. Our next speaker is Jim Imbrowski and Deborah Barmack. Jim? Deborah Barmack, followed by Andrea De Leon.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here to address your board this morning. I am Deborah Barmack, the president of Inland Action, as well as the retired executive director of Sandbag, which is known today as San Bernardino County Transportation Authority and the Council of Governments. This morning I'm here to support ratification of the ground lease agreement with Hillwood Enterprises. Through my work with the private sector, leaders at Inland Action, as well as my experience with elected officials throughout this county, it is clear that this project has been a cornerstone of the county-wide economic vision for building a vibrant economy in this county. Your approval of this agreement will launch a project which not only will meet your goals of rebuilding aviation and jobs at this location, but it is an important part of rebuilding the economic health of this entire region. Restoring aviation activity and jobs at this airport has been part of Inland Action's platform since the closure of Norton. Your approval of this contract today will initiate new activity that brings us just one step closer to fulfilling our commitment to rebuilding airport and strengthening the economy and health of this area. I look forward to your approval of this agreement today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Jim Imbrowski, sir.
Good morning. I'm Jim Imbrowski. I live at 28605 Sheffield Drive, Highland, California. I'm here today to speak in favor of this project and talk a little bit about my professional history with this project. In 1992, my firm, Associated Engineers, was hired by the airport as the first consultant. At the time, Norton was still under control of the Air Force, and I worked with Patty Warren of the Air Force to determine the airport boundary. I prepared the legal description and approval by the Secretary of the Air Force and became the foundation for the transfer of Norton Air Force Base to civilian use. My firm designed and managed the construction of a new Group 6 runway, which handles any aircraft that's flying in the world, including the 747-8, the Anadoc 225, and the Airbus A380. Excuse me. I worked with the airport director to prepare the airport layout plan to designate San Bernardino International Airport a Group 6 airport, capable of handling heavy cargo operations. In the mid-90s, I was on the ramp at 3 o'clock in the morning with several of the board members when the first cargo flight came into SBIAA. That was a truly starting of our cargo facility here at San Bernardino International Airport. Cargo was always the direction and objective of the airport board, and it was a vision of the early planners to build cargo facilities. To be operational, we needed several things to happen. We needed an operational tower.
1 minute remaining.
We needed customs facilities, improved airport access, and a state-of-the-art cargo facility. The first three items have been achieved, and now the Eastgate project will come to fruition, the San Bernardino International Plan for Cargo Operations, and I strongly support this project. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is Andrea De Leon, followed by Martha Romero, followed by Wayne Brown.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you very much for allowing us to speak this morning on behalf of the Highland Area Chamber of Commerce. We want you to know that we took a position in support of the project. We feel that they have done an exemplary job in preparing for this. We are proud to see that the FAA found no conditions of significant impact. It means that they've really gone out of their way to assure, with the extra solar, with all the other things that have made this an exceptional project, that the merit is in this project. Beyond the 2,000 jobs that it will bring, it will help support our local businesses and bring goods and services more in those improvements. I know there is much concern about the traffic and congestion, but traffic and congestion is caused by our people on a regular basis having to get up in the morning and leave. 65% of our employees have to leave the area to go find work. That's not acceptable. This is part of one of those projects that will assure that we can have jobs here in our communities for our neighbors and our families. It troubles me when I heard the last time we were here, the young people talk about how the impacts of the pollution, et cetera, would be devastating to our community, when they didn't know how it used to be when we were growing up here in this area. And that was significant. We also know that the #1 killer, though, is poverty. So to not provide jobs is more irresponsible. So we're very proud of this project, and very proud to see that you are looking at this project with a good eye, and we hope that you will continue to support our area. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Martha Romero, followed by Wayne Brown, followed by Abigail Medina.
Good morning. Today, as we stand here in front of you as a San Bernardino community, we are facing a huge decision that will impact San Bernardino for generations. We are being given 24 hours and 3 minutes, notification of this so-called special meeting. It's scheduled between Christmas and New Year's. This is clearly an attempt to avoid public input and public scrutiny. The lease is being proposed for our public airport in the future of San Bernardino. The lease is proposed for the initial 35 years and renewal option totaling at 49 years. It seems to be an additional specifications and changes of this project contained in the lease. A maintenance building location apparently has been moved closer to the community, and the number of planes being parked has been decreased. According to the lease, planes will be allowed to idle for repairs, which can cause pollution. As we know, we are one of the highest cities in the country that has the highest pollution in the area. The impact of this specifics needs to be fully studied in mitigation to affect the residents provided. The lease agreement is missing key information that includes vague language that could be considered one-sided in favor of the developer. The whole section on SBIAA, airport rules and regulations, is missing and is to be added in the near future. The rules and regulations should contain key environmental mitigations and protect the community and the public's health. The lease commencement date is blank. The lease also allows the developer, Hillwood, to terminate the lease before the commencement date. What an irony. There's more information regarding Hillwood's tenant, and instead there appears to be a gag order language regarding who the tenant will be. The lack of transparency is usually for some government agency.
30 seconds remaining.
Some of the monetary payments are changed on the lease amount appears to be less than the draft lease proposed back by SBIAA for Hillwood in December 2018. The final proposed has 250,650 with 33 cents as of to 2019. However, the one on 2018 showed a 221,067.
Speaker's time has expired.
Thank you, thank you. Our next speaker is Wayne Brown, followed by Abigail Medina, followed by Tom Dolan. Wayne Brown, Abigail Medina, Tom Dolan.
Mr. Mayor, if I might, there were two issues that were brought up that I think, I don't want to wait till the end to fill you in on. Two issues. One was the proper noticing of a special meeting. The law requires 24 hours for a special meeting. This item was put on at 9:57 on Friday morning, giving more than 72 hours notice for this meeting. So we've given more than 3 times the amount of notice. Staff has given more than 3 times the amount of notice for a special meeting. Number two, the allegation regarding public comment, I would only like to note, we are close to capacity in this room. We have media, both national and I think they would call themselves international media here in the room. There has been no effort to limit public comment or review of this matter.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Wayne Brown.
Good morning, Board. Wayne Brown, Highland, California. I just don't understand these people. What we're looking for is
I'm sorry, Mr. Brown.
growth.
You know, folks, we're not going to get any comments from when you're open to talk, you can talk. Let's not interrupt our speakers. Mr. Brown, please proceed.
Thank you. I just don't understand why people would be against this project. They talk about the environment, the smog. You know, I didn't hear a doggone word of them talking about this when the Indian reservation opened. It has 30,000 cars a day going to the Indian reservation. Did you hear any complaints then? You didn't hear a doggone one. They're building a hotel there. That's going to be a lot more congestion. Compare that 30,000 plus to the 7,000 for the Eastgate project. There's no comparison. The jobs, we need more jobs, which everybody's talked about. We need more jobs in this area. We don't really need unions involved in building this warehouse, this entire facility. We need employees that are competent in their trade, that can step in and build the project, and if it takes people in a union to do it, maybe they can do it. I mean, who's to stop them? You don't need one union to run the entire project. It's, in my opinion, that's just not necessary. So it's the economy. What we're looking for is local economy, growth. There were 10,000 jobs that were lost when the Air Force left the facility, and with the 2,000 additional jobs, we're over and above what it was when the Air Force left.
1 minute remaining.
Thank you. Abigail Medina, followed by Tom Dolan, followed by Gracie Torres.
First off, I just want to say we do need union jobs. That's what's helping our economy. That's exactly what's helping. So, all the union leaders here, that is definitely something that we definitely need in our community. And the reality is we do need local jobs. We do need local jobs, and how do we increase that? But at the same time, it needs to be written within the community agreements plan. If we don't have it written, we don't know for sure if it will take effect or not. So I'm a school board member, and I represent many schools in San Bernardino. I live here in the city, and the reality is that it's not written that our schools will have the double pane windows as well as air filters. We currently have a school site that needs air filters, but what happens when they leave the school? What happens when they leave the classrooms? The reality is we do have those trucks that are idling. We have the diesel trucks that are polluting our air, and there's nothing being done in order to have it written within the plan. I'm a school board member, I'm an elected official, just like how many of you are. And we are responsible to our community, we are responsible to hearing the comments that's being brought today. But the problem is that, and you see it all the time, if it's not written, it could be easily changed. And that's what we want. We want to make sure that it's written within the plan, and that's where the community benefits agreement come into place. When you look at the special meetings, and that's what I kind of was curious to find out, why the rush? Why the rush in between the holidays? We just finished Christmas. We started the Kwanzaa piece. And New Year's it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. Why the rush? And can it be something that we're going to wait until we actually see the full report? Did you receive the FFA report? If you did, then why aren't we able to see it as well to make sure that it's also being inclusive to the issues that we're fighting for? So I just want to make sure that we are looking at this and we are including those into the community benefits agreements. Thank you.
Thank you. Tom Dolan, followed by Gracie Torres, followed by Alicia Aguayo. Tom Dolan, Gracie Torres, Alicia Aguayo.
Good morning. My name is Tom Dolan. I'm a resident of San Bernardino, and I'm the Executive Director of Inland Congregations United for Change, which is an association of 60 congregations in the region, 12 here in the city of San Bernardino, representing more than 20,000 families in the city. And our interest and our concern about this is the impact on our families and our community that this project will have. I'm here to oppose ratification of the ground agreement until there is a study of, and our elected officials, you, look at what would a community benefits agreement entail? How could that benefit our community? We are asking our congregations, members who live in the neighborhood here, are asking, why wouldn't our elected officials want a benefit agreement for our community? Why would you not want to do what many other cities doing projects of this size, Los Angeles, Oakland, why would you not want to spell out an agreement that would benefit the community? It's not enough just to have jobs for the construction of the project. It's not enough. We can do more as leaders of this community, as our elected officials and representatives of the community. You can do more. And that's what we're here to ask you for. It's simple. Study what a community benefit agreement looks like. How has it been implemented in the construction of projects like the Oakland Airport, like Los Angeles? And why would we in San Bernardino, in Highland, have to play second fiddle again to these cities that have done these efforts to benefit their community? You represent us. We're here to ask you, take time. Okay, don't rush this through. Take time, study this, and benefit all of the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Gracie Torres, followed by Alicia Aguayo, followed by Ana Cervantes. Gracie Torres, Alicia Aguayo, followed by Ana Cervantes, followed by Susan Carl.
Hello, my name's Alicia, and I've been living in San Bernardino for 23 years on the west side. And I just want to say that I didn't get a notification about this meeting. The only reason I knew was because I have friends who have been involved in these things. So I can imagine how many other people are not even aware that this is happening, which is absurd. And also that it was mentioned that it's not appropriate to mention health and environmental impacts during this meeting, which is crazy, because how can we separate this matter? You guys keep talking about economy and jobs, but we're not talking about health. Like, how are those not equivalent? So it's just, I'm really disappointed that y'all think that you're doing a good job, because you're not. People are not informed about this. This is an issue that you cannot just talk about jobs. You have to think about health. You have to think about the people, okay? And it's crazy. Like Abigail was talking about that school. I used to work at that school, and I live in that community, and there are so many students there that have asthma, and they have to limit their time outdoors because of the poor air quality, and a lot of their families, they have cancer and they're dying, and you guys are just pushing that to the side. How is that not a priority? And how are you guys not thinking about the people? You should be considering us and making sure that people are informed. If this is an issue that has been brought up so many times, then why are you guys not prioritizing it? I'm done.
Thank you. Ana Cervantes, followed by Susan Carl, followed by Teresa Conroe. Ana Cervantes? Ana? Oh, there you are. Welcome.
Good morning, Council. Happy holidays. We are here on a special meeting that was deliberately scheduled, given the poor notice, at an inaccessible and inappropriate time for community input on such an important decision as the one we are making today. How can we approve the ground lease without the proper review of environmental assessment results required that were just released a couple days ago, right? Who is the tenant that has yet to be released that you're protecting as if you will be receiving billions of dollars yourself? You boast thousands of jobs, but what kind of jobs are you bringing in for whom? Look, unfortunately, I don't expect Hillwood from Texas to consider the people of our community as his development in our city meant to add to our community looks like over 70 warehouses, many of which sit empty. But that's why we have you, our representatives, right? To speak for us on our behalf and to consider our entire community. What we are asking for does not cancel out jobs. It does not cancel out development either. Our city needs both, but no longer will we stand for mediocrity and second-rate so-called opportunities without benefits for our futures. Our ask for a community benefits agreement in exchange for development in our community looks like good jobs and clean air, much like Los Angeles, much like Oakland. We are damn worthy of it too. I am here speaking for our elders, for our children born with breathing issues and can't play outside, and our future, because we are worth it. No lease signing without a SBIAA agreement. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Susan Carl, followed by Teresa Conroe, followed by Alicia Enciso. Susan Carl, Teresa Conroe, Alicia Enciso.
Good morning. My name is Susan Carl. I am a longtime resident of Highland. I grew up in San Bernardino. You can justify the legal notice of the meeting all you want, but we all know what issuing that notice on a Friday morning, the week of a holiday, 2 holidays means. It's not as if you guys aren't aware that the community has demanded input into this project. I don't understand what the rush is. There's already an impact on traffic just having the FedEx and the UPS facilities here and the Amazon warehouses. If you live in Highland or you live in this area of San Bernardino, you directly feel the impact every single day. Again, why rush to sign a lease that appears to be incomplete? There are changes, multiple changes laid out in that lease that are different from the lease we were shown initially. You knew, obviously, the FAA report was going to come out this morning. That's why you scheduled the meeting. Yet you haven't given an opportunity to read that report for anybody, including yourselves. And I just want to say that this region is tired of politicians selling us down the river for the last 20 to 30 years to developers so they can take developers' money and put it in their pockets. it is time you consider the community. Do not sell yourselves short. This developer, this Amazon needs us more than we need them. And we want good jobs here, sustainable jobs. Nobody that works at Amazon right now can live in the city of Highland. Are you kidding? They can't. It's not affordable for them. You want good jobs to stay here in the city of Highland, you want people to stay in San Bernardino and be able to live and work here, then institute a community benefit agreement and make sure the jobs that are here are good, sustainable, living wage with benefit jobs. Thank you.
Thank you. Teresa Conroe, welcome.
Welcome. This is outrageous. The amount that you're agreeing to is outrageously low. I'm going to talk about Upland. In Upland, a developer also developing for Amazon for a much smaller warehouse, a third of the size, no airport attached. The developer is giving $6.3 million to the city. Hillwood is giving nothing. $2 million are going to development fees to the city, $2 million to future road maintenance, $1.4 million to the 14 public schools, $400,000 to each of the parks, $50,000 to the Chamber of Commerce, $200,000 to the police department. And what does San Bernardino have? What have you actually done? How have you negotiated? The lease that you are asking, the monthly lease, is lower in 2019 than what you had agreed with them in 2018. You're negotiating down. At the same time, the prices of warehouses are going up. So according to the Southern California News Group, the current price for warehouses in the area is 63 to 66 cents a square foot. So that means that if you were actually charging Hillwood a fair market value, you would be requesting $467,000 just for the square footage, not including any of the airport access that they get completely for free, all of the airport resources that have been built up on the public dollar, and all of the public money that has been spent readying at this airport for this project. This is completely and utterly outrageous. It's outrageous that you timed this meeting now. You know exactly why you timed it now. You timed it because you got the FAA to put out the final FONSI, determining on the environmental. And we did not get any answer from you about that having come out, despite having asked for notice about that for months and months and months. And now it's in front of us. None of you have read it. It's hundreds and hundreds of pages. None of the commissioners have read it. No one has actually looked at it. There's tons of information in that of things that should be done for this community. This community is very clear what we're asking for, and you are refusing to listen, and you are trying to get this done in the dark of night. It's completely and utterly unacceptable.
Our next speaker is Alicia Enciso, followed by Court Smith, followed by Adrian Vidar.
Okay, I'm going to ask the audience to please not applause in between. You are interrupting the meeting, and if I don't want to ask anyone to leave, but the time to comment is when your name is called, and that's it. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Alicia Enciso. Alicia, there you are. Welcome, ma'am. Followed by Court Smith, followed by Andrian Vidari.
Honorable Mayor Valdivia and Airport Authority Committee, I'm here to oppose the passing of this resolution at this time. I think that the impact of the environment, that study needs to be part of it. I believe that a letter from the Attorney General, Javier Becerra, was sent to you and the FAA for that review. It noted that there would be a tremendous impact to this community. No doubt we need jobs. These guys are here because they think you're going to give them a job. At the end of the day, I'd like to know how many of them really do get a job. But I think that you need to address AB 617 in this. And I always wonder, when you look at this project, and the lady that said the air quality used to be bad, What do you want? It to be bad again? That's what you're asking for, that we have a cloud over this area. You all have children. Mayor, I know you have 2 beautiful kids. Are they not going to impact your children? Do you think that the bad air quality is just going to be in one little area? No, it affects us all. The trucks, those trucks are killing our people. If you don't believe it, go to the west side and talk to the community. Several kids have been decapitated. An elderly person was dragged from the 5th Street Bridge all the way to Mount Vernon because the truck driver didn't even realize that he was under his truck. The man was in a wheelchair. There's other ramifications to this project that need to be reviewed. We need jobs in this area, but I think we have enough warehouse jobs in this area. I think that you need to be proactive. You promise new jobs, quality jobs, Mayor. I'm looking at you, and you're not looking at me. I'd like you to address those concerns. Please address the environmental issues. This agreement should not be signed till that has been reviewed as it was requested by Assembly Member Eloise Reyes and Senator Connie Laver and our city Attorney General Javier Becerra. So thank you very much for your time. Please listen to us. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Court Smith, followed by Andrin Vidari, followed by Karen Ikes. Court Smith?
Good morning. My name is Court Smith. I'm a concerned community member. There have been last-minute changes to this lease that include allowing idling planes and moving a maintenance building closer to community homes. And the impacts and potential mitigations for such changes haven't been and need to be studied. Please at least delay this vote long enough to read the documents. The Eastgate project will bring jobs, but there are no specific guarantees in this lease for how many, for safe working conditions, whether these jobs will be permanent, and whether they will be paid a living wage. The lease's confidentiality clause hides who the tenant will be from the public, even though this agency is meant to serve and inform community members. But sources have indicated it will be Amazon. I know what kind of jobs Amazon brings because I work in an Amazon warehouse in San Bernardino. Amazon has sky-high accident rates in their warehouses, low wages, and minimal benefits. These are not good jobs someone can support a family on. We need a written community benefits agreement document for the Eastgate expansion that guarantees air filters and soundproofing provided to schools and residents, zero-emission trucks and vehicles so less air pollution is created, transit and infrastructure improvements and green spaces, limitations on truck idling and noise ordinances, and access to safe, family-sustaining jobs for residents who live near the airport. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Adrian Vidari. Adrian Vidari, followed by Karen Ikes, followed by Yvonne Marquez.
My name is Andrea Vidaurre. I'm with the San Bernardino Airports Coalition. We're residents, community, environmental, and labor organizations that have explicitly told this board that this process has intentionally limited our input. It's easy to see why you would limit our input. There are significant flaws in your process and significant flaws in the overall goal of this project that y'all either don't want to hear or are avoiding. So since y'all disappointingly pulled this stunt again during the holidays, I want to reiterate concerns by resubmitting comments from Earth Justice, the California Air Resources Board, the South Coast Air Quality Management District, law offices of Gideon Krakow, and importantly, a letter from the California Attorney General's office, Javier Becerra, that have not been addressed by this board and all state that there are significant impacts and are imperative for you to be making a vote today. I also want to bring up new concerns outlined in this new letter from Earth Justice that we want to submit for the record, that the lease agreement describes a project that has not been disclosed appropriate CEQA compliance. This new project relies on a CEQA document completed in 2018 for a project that is different from the project today. Just one example of the difference is the fact that we have been made aware that the maintenance facility location will be moved closer to the community and that these facilities could include cold storage. There are different emission profiles that must be assessed that would differ from the 2018 CEQA. Also just in, hundreds of pages of the NEPA environmental assessment has been released right now with absolutely no time to review. The staff must be given time to analyze it and give you a report on it. Another reason why this board does not have enough information today to be making a vote. We've been rebuilding economic health for years. We've been hearing from economists and economic partnerships that every project's going to rebuild our economy and that every project is going to help us. And we've been hearing this for years. And we've been waiting for years to see when that actually is going to happen.
1 minute remaining.
We will never revive the economy under the standards y'all have set for us here and that you continue to set for us. We need a community benefits agreement to ensure that union jobs, local jobs, and everyone, and for everyone, and that we hold them accountable for reducing their environmental impacts. Take some time, table this vote, study the benefits that your board would receive by getting into a community benefits agreement. Invite Magnus, who is right back there, and let's get it done. Thank you.
Thank you. Karen Ikes. Karen Ikes, followed by Ivan Marquez, followed by Aaron Burgess.
Hello, good morning. And for the record, my name is Karen Ickes, I-C-K-E-S, Ickes, and I am a candidate for the County Board of Supervisor for the 3rd District. I'm here representing the citizens and residents of the county, just as all of you should be doing. That is your job. You should be representing the community. One question that I really, you seem to interject every time, so the attorney, why can you interject right now and tell us why we only got 24-hour notice? Why, can you interject now? Oh, okay. So one of the things is I've been living in this county for 20 years, and I've been working for the Transitional Assistance Department for the County Board of Supervisor, for the County of Supervisor, I'm sorry. I'm projecting that I'm going to be on the Board of Supervisors. So I'm actually an employee of the County of San Bernardino, and I've worked in the Transitional Assistance Department. And these people, they want good paying jobs. I'll tell you, part of working in the Transitional Assistance Department, we have low-paying jobs. All these warehouse jobs, those people are still relying on the Transitional Assistance Department to pay their health benefits, to pay for food stamps, because the jobs that we're bringing in with these warehouse jobs with Amazon, that's what they're still having to do. So the purpose is so people can be self-sufficient, and that's not happening. So, as I said, I want to make sure that if we're being transparent and accountable to our citizens, then why are we rushing this? So I am opposed to this, and that I'm here speaking for the residents, and I'm hoping that you guys will give us that opportunity to review everything and listen to everything we have to say before making a decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Ivan Marquez, followed by Aaron Burgess, followed by Ana Gonzalez.
Good morning. My name is Yvonne Marquez. I'm a history student at UCR and the president of the Parenting Students Association, and I'm here on behalf of both. Last month, some colleagues and I were able to present our research about Hillwood at an environmental injustice conference. And we saw these repeated stories of big businesses taking over, harming the environment, making us further in poverty, and the same thing is happening here. Amazon does not bring good jobs, and the amount of environmental degradation that will come from the air is not being considered. It is absolutely absurd to even consider signing an agreement without considering the environment and the health of our residents. 24 hours notice was not enough. Most of us have jobs. Our parents, we're not able to come at the drop of a hat. 72 hours on a holiday weekend does not even equate 24 hours. Once again, the residents of San Bernardino, majority of us, poor, working class, and folks of color, are being ignored by the San Bernardino Airport Authority. The environmental justice concerns and programs raised by new state law, AB 617, have not been addressed. Please do not rush this. What is the rush? Thank you.
Thank you. Aaron Burgess, Ana Gonzalez, Laura Schultz, Sean Martinez.
How you all doing? Aaron Burgess here. I just want to stand in solidarity with my brothers and sisters in the back. Also, the men in orange, whose jobs are important to the families that they serve, but a community benefits agreement is necessary. I'm from COPE, Congregations Organized for Prophetic Engagement, fourth generation San Bernardinian, African American, family from every other hue, Latinos in my heart, Native Americans in my heart, white folks in my heart. And there was a comment about Native American construction, but if you guys would recall, Native Americans do a lot for the community financially. So those things are important. So I want to reiterate, stand in solidarity. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ana Gonzalez, followed by Laura Schultz, Sean Martinez, and Eddie Tejada.
Good morning, members of the board, staff, and community members. My name is Ana Gonzalez, and I am here representing the Chicano Latino Caucus of San Bernardino County. I represent members who live in this community. And also for the record, I sit on the board for CCAEJ, the Center for Community Action and Environmental Justice. First, the community was not given enough time to review this report and the recent changes to the permits. How convenient for the special interest to hold a special meeting between the holidays where many stakeholders, especially those folks who live here, are not able to come and express their concerns. I am sick and tired of being sick and tired to hear that the warehouse projects that are being brought to this community provide jobs. They are not good jobs. We are not paying attention to the long-term jobs being offered by these projects. Most of those folks who work for the logistics industries still have to seek transitional services, and I know it's been echoed before, but I want to say it louder. These people are still seeking transitional services so they can make ends meet by providing food on the table, by having medical resources, because they don't have benefits. How can that be good for our community? Do they have any tax breaks? Do we get to lower their rent so they can make ends meet? No, but these warehouses do. They don't pay taxes to the community. They don't bring any benefits to the community. For these folks, just to afford a roof over their head, they're struggling. That's why homelessness rates are going up. And that is not fair. There are over 300,000 children with asthma in San Bernardino County. Who will speak up for them and protect their lungs from the pollution that will increase and affect their ability to just breathe? Well, we will speak for them if you won't. I am for jobs, and I am I'm a labor sister. I am from CSCA Chapter 203, but I am for good paying jobs that provide benefits because one job should be enough. I also have an issue with your report on page 29. It is not complete. A project starting date is not there. It's blank. How can you approve something that is not complete? We demand community benefits agreement for this project. We want clean air, good jobs, and just to remind you, a healthy community, a happy community is a thriving community, and that is one that you're not offering with this project.
Laura Schultz, followed by Sean Martinez, followed by Councilman Tejada.
Good morning. My name is Laura Schultz. I'm a resident of Yuba Valley. I get to deal with the traffic to and from the ports, to and from San Bernardino, the trucks, the off-ramps, and the whole 9 yards. Air quality has gone downhill. We've got elected officials on the AQMB board that says, no, we can't do more restrictions on warehouses and trucks because they'll go to Arizona. But a little bit about SBIAA, or SBIAA, okay? It's an airport authority. We are on airport. The authority envisions SBD as a major economic engine and a vital resource for our local communities, bringing in jobs, tourists, travelers, businesses, and recognition for our beautifully designed, carefully planned, and state-of-the-art airport facilities. To that end, the authority's efforts are focused on strengthening our community region by promoting aviation activities and business opportunities, improving the infrastructure, landscape, and aesthetics of the airport, promoting the safe and efficient movement of people, and goods throughout the Southern California region. Okay, On section 8.1 of this lease, I'm not quite sure how secondary incidental uses associated therewith, including receiving, storing, assembling, shipping, distributing, preparing, and selling of products, materials, and merchandise, including food, grocery, and liquor items, the parking, storage, and use of trucks, machinery, trailers, and automobiles, including outdoor loading and unloading, processing, customer returns, distribution center use consistent with the primary use A above, trucking, motor freight, small package and delivery, general office and data center use, printing, making products on demand, other ancillary and related uses. How is that airport? That light industrial? Are you kidding me? You've got acres and acres of land for that. Airport and flights are very limited. They're going up in price. Why do you think subtenant, which there are many, is Amazon is coming here? And then we talk about Hillwood. Well, I just want to know why then the lease is being entered in with Eastgate Building 1, LLC, a Delaware limited liability company. What? So now we're shifting? Who knows what that company is and what their history is? And then we talk about storing jet fuel is prohibited, but later on, yeah, they can. Where is that going to be stored? Where is that in your plans? Community benefit agreements, Tennessee MSL Sports Complex. Maybe when you look at those, see what that community benefits was. The LA Live.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Sean Martinez, followed by Eddie Tejada, followed by Jorge Heredia, and Rocio Ruiz.
Good morning, Commissioners. Happy holidays. I'm going to try to keep it brief. My name is Sean Martinez with the SB Airport Communities Coalition. Just wanted to bring up a few things. One, I always like to give people a benefit of the doubt, but the way that this process has played out these last few days raises a lot of suspicions. I got the email Friday morning, 9:57. I was on that email list, I think, because I reminded the Airport Authority on November 16th that I wanted to be on the email list regarding this project and any of the FAA decisions. I asked the staff of this Airport Authority after I received that email why this vote was being rushed, why this needed to happen now. I asked specifically whether the FAA had actually issued a final environmental assessment and where that process was at. I didn't get an answer. I got an answer from Mike regarding the public comment process, which didn't go down this morning as I thought you explained it to me. Regarding that point, I think we would like to hear from you all and then get a chance to comment after that. The specifics of this project, why we're voting on it today, where the FAA process is at. We just got notice from our attorney probably 15 minutes ago that the final environmental assessment has actually been signed by the FAA. We just got a call back from the FAA right now after we've been reaching out to them about where this process is at. And, maybe the confusion is all because of the holidays, but more reason why this vote should not be scheduled today and should not happen today. If I was on this commission, I would ask for at least a delay in this vote, and if you're forced to vote, I think it's the only responsible thing to do here is to vote no. So, the other points I wanted to hit, one, we don't need Amazon as much as they need us, and that might feel counterintuitive given what this community has gone through over the last couple decades. But anybody who follows this industry knows that e-commerce is booming. Air freight in particular is booming. There's no space in Ontario, there's no space at March. That's where Amazon's operating out of now. FedEx and UPS have massive facilities in Ontario and they're squeezed out of Amazon. FedEx and UPS are starting to operate out of here. Amazon needs this airport, and we need to start acting like it. Stop selling ourselves so short. It hurts me to watch this, to watch you or the people who are supposed to represent us do this. And then lastly, I just want to say, we met with Hillwood back in July. The day after we met with Hillwood, the FAA came out with their draft. It's time. I'm going to say one last thing. It's time ask for Hillwood to get back to the table and for us to agree to a community benefits agreement. And if not, the fight's not over. We'll continue to fight. Thank
Good morning, my name is Eddie Tejeda. It's a pleasure to speak before you. I just had the opportunity to review the lease just before as I arrived here at 9 o'clock. And as I was looking over it, I asked myself the question, how long has each of you spent, reviewing this document? There's a couple of areas that I believe need improvement. One is there's a lot of missing information for the community. They have a right to be upset with the missing information that's here. I'm a sitting council member with the City of Redlands, and anytime we put out public documents, there are no blanks to be filled. Okay. So first of all, under Article 3, rents and fees, how did you come up with a little over 2 point, or how was that number arrived at? There's no rent and fee study attached to this for the community to also help you deliberate, because that's what we're here for, right? We're here to help you deliberate and make sure that the lease is beneficial to everyone, okay? Article 14, the authority's right of entry. There's a 2-day notice to the leasee, I believe that's how you say that, and the airport authority must give them 2 days notice. I think that's unacceptable. I think that if the airport authority is managing this airport, that part of the way you could pay for having somebody here to police leases is by the assigning and subleasing, section Article 15. There's no benefit to the airport authority whatsoever, so you're going to lease this part of this facility to a business, Hillwood Enterprises LLC, for about $2.5 million, and they in turn are allowed to sublease or can sublease, and if there are any subleases, those should be beneficial to the airport authority so that someone can be here on site just in case there are any issues with subleases.
1 minute remaining.
All right. So as I conclude my remarks, the exhibits lack important information for the general public to help you scrutinize the lease, and a lease agreement does not equal a community benefits agreement. You might think that, but it does not. It doesn't have any protections for labor. It doesn't have any protections for anyone except for the person or the businesses that are doing business with the airport authority. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jorge Heredia, followed by Rocio Ruiz, Arturo Orozco, and Guadalupe Dolan. Jorge Heredia. Followed by Arturo Orozco and Rocio Ruiz. Mr. Heredia, welcome.
Hello. So today I would like to speak. So I hope that the airport authority chooses to table today's item because the community clearly has concerns over it, and we need a community benefits agreement outlined in writing before any lease agreement gets approved. And I understand that that our unions need jobs, but all of that needs to be outlined in the community benefits agreement as well, that any jobs that are provided are union jobs. And so that needs to be outlined in a community benefits agreement. I've personally worked in an Amazon warehouse before, and let me tell you, it doesn't provide as much jobs as you think it might. You know, I worked as a picker in an Amazon warehouse, and it's a very isolating job. I walk miles and miles every day picking different items with nobody in sight, nobody around me. So it's not gonna provide, hundreds of jobs as you might imagine. I do hope that the project, when it does happen, I hope it does provide good jobs for our unions who will be who would do the work of building this facility. But after that facility is built, what kind of jobs are we going to be left with? And the air quality is very important as well. I live here off the Tippecanoe. I live from walking distance from right here. And the air quality is very important because what good is a job if that job can't help to pay for the cost of healthcare if somebody in your family gets cancer? So again, the job quality is important. Job wages are important. And the quality of our environment and our air is important. And that all needs to be outlined in the community benefits agreement. And so I suggest the Airport Authority today chooses to table this item or to vote no. Thank you.
Thank you. Arturo Orozco, Rocio Ruiz, Guadalupe Dolan.
Hi, my name is Arturo Orozco. I am a San Bernardino Valley College student. I am a parishioner at Our Lady of Hope, and I also work with ICUC and an aspiring police officer. I am also a student organizer with, like I said, with ICUC. And today I'm here to voice the concerns of the people who you guys have not considered, the youth of the entire county. We actually collected about 2,500 signatures collectively from the students all over the high schools in favor of air filters. They want them. They know how dirty the air is. We have been conducting climate strikes every single Friday. Why? Because your guys' responsibility, you guys failed the city, and we have really bad air pollution. The students really do want clean air. The youth and the public were not included in the decision making of this. John Valdivia, sorry, but you do not represent us. Look at the people in the room. It's just not the people of color here, and look at the board. Sorry. Like I said, no equal representation. I also wanted I'm here to represent my mom and dad. My dad, he is also a La Una union worker. And like the lady in the back said before, he has to drive out 2-3 hours to work. He leaves like 3, 4 in the morning, doesn't come back until 7, 8 at night. It would be amazing if he had a job here, spend more family time with him. You know, the union workers son los meros fregones. They're the ones that, you know, they're building this country, literally. And why you maybe you're concerned as why he's not here, why my mom's not here. Well, let me tell you, my dad woke up at 3 in the morning today to go to work on the day before New Year's Eve. That's why he's not here. And my mom, why isn't she here? Because she went to the Monday morning special to the grocery store. Why do you guys not consider them? I don't know. You guys don't represent us, and I hope you guys really hear our concerns,
1 minute remaining.
why we're here, and thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Rocio Ruiz, Guadalupe Dolan, and Gabriela Mendez.
Good morning, all. My name is Rocio Ruiz Chen, and I'm an organizer with ICUC, and I have lived here in San Bernardino for the past 24 years. I am here to oppose the ratification of the grounds lease. I know in the beginning of this meeting we were asked to not be redundant, but I feel like if more than one person here has something to say, even if it's the same thing, we should all be heard. I am here because I believe that your decision could have great impacts on the air quality here in my community. I am here because I have 2 children that live here in San Bernardino. My hope and my dream is to be able to stay here in the city of San Bernardino and give back to the city that has given so much to myself and to my family. But to be honest, I feel afraid when I think of this project and what it can do to our community, what it can do to our air quality. Earlier, we heard somebody share that our air is a lot better than what it used to be. Well, if you look at reports, our air quality is going back. It's getting worse again. You can't tell me that passing and doing this project here without really looking at how we can make sure that our communities get some benefit from it not doing that, that our communities are not gonna suffer because of this project. So I'm here to please ask you to really look at writing in a community benefits agreement. I'm here because we want clean air. We also want jobs. Don't get me wrong. I look at all of you all, and I see my dad, and I see my uncles who have worked in construction their whole lives. But we can't sell ourselves short. We need to ask for those benefits agreement, and we need them now. Thank you.
Thank you. Guadalupe Dolan. Good morning. Welcome.
Hi, my name is Guadalupe Dolan. I was born here and I live here with my family. I'm here representing young people who live in the city. We deserve a city with clean air and good jobs, and I'm concerned that this project won't do either of those. That's why I'm here to demand the community benefits agreement. We need a written community benefits agreement for the East Gate expansion that will provide soundproofing and air filters for schools and residences, use zero-emission trucks and vehicles so less air pollution is created, create transit and infrastructure improvements and green spaces, enhance noise ordinances and limits on truck idling, provide access to family-sustaining jobs for the residents who live near the airport. Thank you. Please remember this. Please remember the young people in our community like me before you pass this.
Thank you. Gabriela Mendez.
Good morning. I am so disappointed to be here because of this special meeting when I should be eating breakfast with my family. I am more angry that you guys decided to have this meeting without proper notice, especially with such a massive project. I see Assemblymember Eloise Reyes supporting us, and we also witnessed Connie Leva supporting us. Why can't you guys? We need a community benefits agreement that will provide soundproofing and air filters for our schools and residents. By the way, how sad is it that our schools are going to need air filters? Just let that sink in. We need zero-emission trucks and vehicles, transit and infrastructure improvements, and green spaces, enhanced noise ordinances and limits on trucks idling, and providing access to family-sustaining jobs for residents who live near the airport. Let me just add that we are also in a climate emergency, and to remind you that people are locally already suffering the impacts of industry. Also, more recently, I've been running into folks who are workers in Amazon and only receive 15-minute breaks, to which they can only enjoy 5 to 10 minutes of because they are long, because of the long walk they have to do to get to the break area. We need to do better than that. I understand you guys need to make your coin, but not at the expense of children's health, especially at the expense of this community.
Treasurer Ortiz.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to say that I'm surprised by this non-transparent, short-notice meeting, but since John Valdivia became the mayor of San Bernardino and Teddy has become a council member, this is the status quo. But my hope is that Jack and Don, you guys will be the representation we don't have in this city, because your cities, by planning and proper leadership, have prospered over the last decade while San Bernardino filed for bankruptcy. We have union members who oppose what's happening because of a lack of an environmental impact report that you don't want to look at or consider. You have union members here who believe that jobs are going to come now. And then you have people of supply chain management from the private sector. And the question really is, why can't everyone benefit? Why can't you put good jobs in place for private sector employees that shouldn't live at a minimum wage but should have a livable wage? Because when Amazon goes home at the end of the year, they walk away with billions and billions of dollars, where their employees walk away with $11 to $15 an hour. You have local union workers who want to come and work, but also earn a prevailing wage because they already have people fighting for them. But can you guarantee they will work here? Because I don't know if you guys know, but our mayor has traveled to China, is working with China investors to come here. And not only do they come here for their cargo, but they bring their own employees on work visas. He went to Mexico and has done the same thing. Why is information so scary to you all? That is the job Why do people walk up and present you with more than the knowledge you're supposed to retain to make decisions? And I get it, John. It sounds so crazy, right, to know what you're talking about when you make decisions on behalf of a public. This is an opportunity to change San Bernardino, to change the Inland Empire for the better, to make it something that has never been able to be, which is successful. 35 years you guys are going to set something into motion. Take your time, for the love of God.
1 minute
Don't
remaining.
rush this decision because it's impactful. Some people in this room will not be here in 35 years, and others will become the new leaders. And what are we going to tell our children? Hey guys, go to college and get ready to go work for Amazon. What is that? What type of industry? Where is the leadership and the democratic process that is so vital? What you guys come and knock on doors for, that you tell us and you make promises, that you're going to uphold the Constitution in the best interest of the people, not the people who give you money for elections. Don't sit there and stay faith. This is important. This is so important. You guys are charged with the public integrity, public betterment. Make a good decision, please, because our city can't afford any more bad decisions by the people that are in charge now. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Dennis Johnson. Dennis Johnson, our next speaker. Mr. Johnson? Dennis Johnson?
I appreciate being here this morning.
Can you speak a little louder in the microphone?
Okay.
Thank you.
I appreciate
Welcome.
being here this morning. And there's issues here that I'd like to express that maybe nobody else touched. We were talking about 2,000 jobs, but we're talking about in economics, that's 5 to 1. So there's 10,000 jobs out there. And where are those jobs going to go? There's a thing called unintentional intentions. There's no reason that this facility cannot move down 11 miles to the city of Riverside. They are now going through a process of making it like Norton did 10 years ago. Okay? I've lived here for close to 80 years. I've watched the consequences of time. I've watched all the orange trees die. I've watched land values go down to $150 an acre. I've watched Kaiser Steel leave. I've watched Santa Fe move out. I've watched many people not leaving, staying here and put it up. But as of what's going on here at San Bernardino International Airport, there's a rebirth. The rebirth is coming for the last 10 years. We had 5,000 jobs here when Norton closed. We have over 5,000 now. And I'm just saying, you should look around and look at this as a businessman would. What does San Bernardino International Airport and San Bernardino have to offer? It's got one of the best education systems going. It's got some of the best colleges going. It's got the best elementary school going. As an immigrant to this country, my mom and dad had to do exactly what a lot of people have done here. They had to take any job they possibly could. This country would not let them into this country. They had to go to Canada first.
1 minute remaining.
Next thing they did, they walked into USA and went there through the legal process of becoming a citizen. My dad volunteered for World War II with 2 sons. Now, you say that and then you say, what's happening here? I'm worried about the 8,000. Not the 2,000. The 2,000 jobs is where my family is when they came to this country. The other 8,000 are going to be well educated. They're going to have a tremendous opportunity to build themselves up personally. It's going to be all family, okay? If the family comes in support a $17 job and a wife and husband working 2 jobs, they can make it. This country has an opportunity for every one of us individually. But we can't go around and just put our head in the sand and say, this opportunity here, hey, we're going to spend more time, we're going to do this and that. Time is a wasting.
Speaker's time has expired.
We need to approve this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Nadia Solis, followed by Anthony Victoria, followed by Jody Scott. Nadia Solis, Anthony Victoria, followed by Jody Scott.
Hi, good morning. My name is Nadi Solis, and I'm a graduate student at Loma Linda University, and I'm a resident of San Bernardino. Last time that I was here for an IVDA meeting, I asked a question. I asked whether these meetings were meant to do something meaningful with our feedback, or whether if it's just to check a box. This question is still relevant today. What I mean is that we continue to express our concerns, yet they are not acknowledged. We have legitimate concerns on what this project will do to our air, our health, our quality of life, and we don't want another project that pumps out temporary and low-wage jobs. We deserve more. On August 8th, hundreds of community members showed up at this location in solidarity to these concerns. We urged the FAA to further examine the environmental impacts, which was done, but this board has not reviewed them. And yet we are here moving forward to vote on finalizing a lease agreement. It doesn't make sense. And so again, we are left to wonder if these meetings are meant to hear us, to genuinely hear our input, or if it's just a necessary step to advance the agenda. The fact that this meeting was announced with little notice on a Friday and scheduled between the holidays are indicators that the community input is not valued. I am in support of good jobs, our health, economic growth, innovation, you name it. We're on the same page. I look around and we are not enemies. But I think it's important, and I encourage everybody to think critically. To the people that are here in support of this project, what proof do you have? What safeguards are in place that guarantees we won't get the short end of the stick again? Is there anything in writing to legally uphold the promises of this project or requirements to protect our health and quality of life? How are we, as residents of San Bernardino, expected to move forward if we don't negotiate for ourselves? I want to see the city thrive again. So before finalizing a lease, we need to see a community benefits agreement. And I urge this board to delay this vote, and if not possible, vote no. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is going to be Anthony Victoria.
So we've heard a lot of comments from some of the leaders on this board about improving the city, about improving San Bernardino, about making it an all-America city. Well, why do we continue to look in the past? Why do we continue to harp on this idea that we need to sell ourselves short, that we need to listen to developers that are not from this area in order to get good jobs? We want good paying jobs. The community is speaking loud and clear when it says community benefits agreement. And all we've seen so far is just inaction and really complacency from this board. And so the FAA decision just came out. I urge you to take the time. What's the rush? Really, what's the rush when it comes to the next 2 or 3 decades of our community's future? Because some of the people that have spoken here today have said that the smog used to be bad. Of course it was bad, but it's still bad. It's still bad when you hear people complaining about asthma, when you have little kids unable to breathe, unable to go outside because they can't even breathe properly. I speak from experience when I say this. People want to talk about that these impacts, that you no longer get impacts from pollution. We see it every day. I've lost my mother in the past year because she lived next to a rail yard. She lived next to a sensitive area where you have a lot of pollution. So you can't tell me that these projects don't bring harm to our community. Because when they're done, when they're rushed, just like you're doing, that's what it causes. It causes harm. And so I urge you, take the time. Mayor, you talk about improving the city. Then I urge you to listen to all these people, including these people in the orange shirts, right? Because they want good jobs. But these good jobs should be inclusive of everybody, not just one trade. There's an opportunity here, y'all. Seize the opportunity. Otherwise, you're going to be looking back and you're going to regret it.
Thank you. Jody Scott, followed by Chris Marin, followed by Mike Navarre, followed by Chris Reed. Jody Scott, Chris Marin, and Mike Navarre.
Jody Scott, City of Highland.
and I was a council member for the city for 23 years, and I did represent the people of this area. I was here when we had an active base. I was here when the base closed, and I was here with the devastation that the closing of the base did. And yes, it's taken 20-plus years to get where we are today. I'm concerned about air quality, etc., like anyone would be if they had any common sense. However, how many in the audience have an electric dishwasher at home? How many have an electric clothes dryer, or do you hang your clothes on the line? You see, I care because I care at my home, and that's where it begins. We need this project in San Bernardino Valley. We need it. And I applaud each member that has gone through volumes of reading. I know what you've been through, and I applaud all of you for being here when it's a holiday weekend. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris Marin, followed by Mike Navarre, followed by Chris Reed. Chris Marin, Mike Navarre, Chris Reed. Chris Marin, Mike Navarre, Chris Reed.
Good afternoon. Thank you for taking your holiday time to come and listen to and make yourselves kind of targets. I know it takes a lot of responsibility to do that. My name is Chris Marin. I'm the president of the Highland Chamber of Commerce, and I speak in support of the project. I'm a retired principal for the Colton Unified School District. And one of the things that I always worried about, one of the things that I always hoped is that our students would find good paying jobs in the surrounding areas. And I see this as a perfect way to begin to network, to begin to offer the jobs, and to begin to make the community a better place for the Inland Empire students and their families. Now, I've heard talk about community benefit, and I'm sure that's a contract. I'm sure that's an agreement. Community is out there. Community is my neighbors who are in support of this. Community are the service clubs. Community are the service clubs that are the veterans out there that are in support of this. Post 421 in Highland, many of them.
Ms. Marin, just a minute. We're going to asking the public, please, to refrain from interrupting the speaker. You've had your opportunity. Please, let's respect each other's time. We've heard you. We hear that. Please continue, Ms. Marin.
Okay, it's the veterans clubs. Many of them support it. It's the people that are at their jobs today. Tons of them support it. So when we talk about community, we're not talking about just the people in this room. We're talking about the people that are out there that all of us know that are for the project. So keep working hard. Thank you for the tons of material you've gone through to make the best decisions that you can. And hopefully we'll be offering our students and our future young people graduating and our future graduates from our community colleges and our universities good paying jobs. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I want to remind the public, please, we appreciate your time. We want to respect the individual's times that's recognized. Mike Navarre,
Mr. Mayor,
followed by Chris Reed.
Mr. Mayor, let me. There is a process whereby we can clear this room and continue the hearing. And if I continue to have these outbursts, this is not a baseball game where you can shout whatever you want whenever you feel like it. This is a public hearing. The time to speak is when you're recognized, and we'd like the speakers to be able to be heard by the commissioners.
Mr. Navarre.
My name is Mike Navarre. I'm a resident of San Bernardino and member of Laborers Local Union 783. I'm here this morning to show my support for the Eastgate Air Cargo Facility project because it will create much needed construction and long-term jobs. Local construction project that pays good wages like this one means we spend less time on the road commuting to Orange than LA County and more time with our families. I'd rather support local communities, our communities, my community, than having to go elsewhere for someone else's community. I strongly support the project. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker. Our next speaker is Chris Reed, followed by Brent Hadley, followed by Jose Ramirez, followed by Carlos Gomez.
Good morning. My name is Chris Reed, and I am a member of the Laborers International Union of North America, and I am a resident of San Bernardino. I lived here my whole life, and I'm here today to express my support for the Eastgate Air Cargo Facility. This project will bring much needed jobs in San Bernardino and the surrounding communities. Jobs like these have helped support my family, and because these jobs are local, it means that I get to spend more time with them and less time commuting from work. The economic benefits the project will be contributing, both directly and indirectly, will create a stronger economic future for the workers like me. The Eastgate Air Cargo Facility is committed to helping our community and supporting our workers. This is why I strongly support the Eastgate Air Cargo Facility. Thank you.
Thank you. Brent Hadley, followed by Jose Ramirez, followed by Carlos Gomez. Brent Hadley, Jose Ramirez, Carlos Gomez.
Jose Ramirez.
Sir, welcome.
My name is Jose Hector Ramirez, and I'm a member of Laborers Local 783, serving San Bernardino, Oño, and Mono counties. As you see my brothers and sisters here, we're a strong union. So I come to speak on behalf of my brothers and sisters that live in San Bernardino and surrounding areas. We ask for your continued support in bringing in new development that we need here to San Bernardino. This development only brings in new jobs in upgrading our infrastructure, such as storm drains, sidewalks, curb and gutter. All these items would be hard to come by without the investment of contractors like Hillwood. Like I said, we need these guys to bring in this money so we can get to work and build our infrastructure and build up our communities. I said these jobs are well paid and keep local craftsmen and women employed and close to home, keeping them off highways with long commutes, improving their quality of life and that there of their families. That is always our fight. That is always our struggle, to keep these folks close to home, to keep these people working so they can pay their mortgages. And I said, so Hillwood is an awesome partner that is looking to make a substantial investment in our community and looking to do it with local contractors, local workforce, as you can see here. It is a win-win for our city and local economy. The members of Local 783 and other participating locals and other crafts, thank you for the opportunity to, and we want to make sure that we put across that we really take pride in building our cities and building our communities, and this is what we strive for. As I said, taking pride in everything we build. We appreciate your time to address you this morning, and then ask that you approve this project and approve these projects. So, thank you. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Brent Hadley, Carlos Gomez, Thomas Reese. Brent Hadley, Carlos Gomez, Thomas Reese, Julia Robles. Mr. Gomez, welcome.
I'm Carlos Gomez from Laborers Local 783, and I am in support of this project. The residents of San Bernardino, I am a resident of San Bernardino. I am here today with my brothers and sisters of Laborers Local Union 783 to show support for the Eastgate Air Cargo Facility. We need more local union jobs like these in San Bernardino. We live in a community and we all want to work at it too. Commuting for hours to Orange County, to LA, can be very dangerous. I understand this work and I have chosen and have traveled, but when an opportunity like this project comes up, I have to strongly support it. We want to work with the communities where we live. That's why I support the Eastgate Cargo Facility. Thank you.
Thomas Reese, Julia Robles, Catherine Palomares, Patrick Morris, Luis Portillo, Andres Garcia, and, all right. Sir, your name?
Good morning. My name is Thomas Ruiz. I'm a representative
Thank
of
you.
Laborers Local 783, located here in San Bernardino, representing over 1,700 men and women in the construction trade. We're here this morning to support the ground lease agreement between San Bernardino and Hillwood. This agreement will create much-needed construction work and a positive addition to the city. This project will be an opportunity for many unemployed San Bernardino residents. This opportunity to put 3,000 to 4,000 people to work should not be delayed. This is a stepping stone in the right direction for San Bernardino residents, and we, LIUNA, know how important this project is, and that's why we're all here today. Some say that our work that we do in the construction trade is temporary and that it has no value, but that could be further from the truth. No one complains when the highways are temporarily shut down and we get the job done, or when we build a project on time and on budget and we're at no convenience. Many of these men and women here wake up early in the morning before most people have their breakfast to get up and they're out work in the cold, in the rain, recently in the snow, but they get up and they do their job. And this is the trade that they chose to work in, and it's our responsibility to continue to have good projects like this one, to continue to put them to work so they can continue to build their career, continue to build their trade, so that we have men and women that will continue to build our country. Project come to an end, but a career of a labor doesn't. We move on. We go on to the next building, we go on to the next task. Long-term jobs at this facility is better than no jobs, and that's what we're proposing on the opposite side, is having no jobs by shutting down this project. There's no doubt that there will be impacts from this project. Just like any type of development, we have all kinds of different impacts.
1 minute remaining.
But we have a chance to put people to work, and we should do it. We support this project. Thanks.
Our next speaker is Julia Robles, followed by Catherine Palomares, followed by Patrick Morris.
Hello. Hi, my name is Julia Robles. I'm here on behalf of the office of Congressman Paul Cook. He represents California's 8th District. I would like to say on behalf of his office, one, thank you for being here, and thank you to the community on both sides for being here and participating and voicing your opinions. We would like to say that Paul Cook's office is in support of this project. We believe that the economic opportunity and the opportunity for jobs would be a much needed stimuli to the community. We believe that overall, obviously, every project may have things that not everybody agrees with, but we believe that in the big picture, this really will be extremely helpful to the community. Thank you.
Catherine Palomares, Patrick Morris, and Luis Portillo. Welcome, Catherine.
Thank you. I was here at the last meeting in September, October. I also made a public comment then. I was one of the last speakers. I waited until the very end just to make my comment. And when I was making my comment, I mentioned that my father is a truck driver. And I also want to mention that my mother is a worker for the United Food Workers Union. So unions are really important to my family as well. My brother also works, my brother, Chris, he worked at Target for 10 years, and then he found a better opportunity and worked for a warehouse in Ontario. And he worked only those 2 jobs, and they were good jobs for him. They provided, as do my parents' jobs as well. However, on December 10th, 20 days ago, I lost my brother Chris. We still have not been able to put him to rest because of the holidays. The offices are closed. So I understand, life happens as well. However, you all had the choice in making this meeting during the holidays. So my Christmas was already ruined. So I didn't mind coming down and letting you know how I felt. Because this project matters in a big way to a lot of people. And the health impacts matter because my brother was 33 years old. And my brother, when we heard, when it happened, the people who came around us, the people who supported us, financially especially, are his family and friends, community members, people even in this room who are here, supported our family. But did my brothers do good jobs? Did they? Did the corporations? No. Our family and friends and the people who worked with my brother supported us. So what will you do to support the residents of San Bernardino, of the Inland Empire? What will this project do to support us? Can you really answer that? Or are you going to wait until it's too late? For many families, not just mine, but many, many families who are affected by this. Because we have to go it with our community and our friends and the people who really love and care. Do you care?
Our next speaker is Patrick Morris. Mr. Morris, welcome.
Mayor Valdivia, members of the commission, good morning. I'm impressed this morning with the fact that we have a room full of laboring people. My life started as the son of a labor, union scale labor. My family deeply believes in those traditions. My name is Patrick Morris. For the past 56 years, I have lived in this city through good times and bad. As a young attorney, as a school board president, as a judge, as a mayor, as a civic activist. And I rise this morning to strongly support your ratification of this 35-year ground lease to Hillwood Enterprises, which calls out for the construction of a major air cargo cross-dock facility that will activate, for the first time, our air cargo use of this international airport, the single most important economic engine for this valley. This day, this opportunity, is one we have long envisioned. The closure of Norton Air Force Base in 1994 sucked a massive amount of jobs from our city and this valley. We courageously repurposed the military air base and set out to build a first-class international airport that would bring back those thousands of jobs that we lost with Norton's closure. In 1992, we found a private sector partner to join with us to create a master plan to revitalize the non-aviation portions of this great airport and the surrounding regions. The name, Hillwood Enterprises. And they have delivered, bringing some 12,000 jobs and increasing our economic regional output by some $2 billion annually. Their proposed aeronautical partnership in the Eastgate cargo facility
1 minute remaining.
is perhaps the most important and consequential opportunity we have. I was the mayor during the time when we hit the great economic recession in 2009. I watched and witnessed as 5,000 of our families lost their jobs and their homes were foreclosed. We went into bankruptcy in 2012. We emerged largely from that bankruptcy with our ability to re-engage in job creation. That is fundamental. Creation of new jobs. Upon the opening of this cargo facility, we will employ some 1,700 new workers, not including those who will be involved in the construction project itself, increasing perhaps to some 4,000 employees eventually.
Time's up. Time has expired.
In this 21st century, airports are the economic driver, and it'll be so for our city.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is Luis Portillo, followed by Andres Garcia, followed by Carol Beswick. Luis Portillo, Andres Garcia, and Carol Beswick. Your people.
Good morning. My name is Luis Portillo. I'm with the Inland Empire Economic Partnership, and I'm here to speak in support of the Eastgate Air Cargo Facility project that's before you today. You know, since the Great Recession came to a close in 2009, this San Bernardino, Riverside, Ontario area had an unemployment rate of 14.2%, greater than any other large metropolitan area in the nation. As of September 2009, it's dropped down to 3.6%. You know, it's no secret that the logistics industry has fueled a lot of the employment growth in the Inland Empire. Over the past 10 years, 84,000 new jobs, roughly 1 out of every 4 jobs that has been created in this region has come from logistics industry. And you know, these numbers don't even account for the secondary growth that's occurred because of small businesses that are not prospering thanks to all these employment opportunities coming to our region. You know, our AEP recognizes that the important strides that our area has achieved because of responsible growth policies, and we know the value of a good paying job to a hardworking family. The logistics industry makes that possible in our region where only 21% of the workforce has a bachelor's degree or higher. You know, according to the Employment Development Department, the median income in the logistics century for entry-level workers having only a high school diploma or less was $32,594 per year in 2018. For all workers in the sector with high school or less, the median income was $41,309. This data shows there's opportunities for upward mobility within this industry, and that's far better than any other sectors like retail. You know, the gains are more than just financial. We hear time and time again of how people having to wake up before the crack of dawn to drive hours away towards LA, Orange County, to work, simply drive hours to get back. This project brings employment opportunities to our region here so that people can drive a reasonable time to get to work, get home, and spend time with their families.
1 minute remaining.
You know, e-commerce is fundamentally changing the way we do business in our nation. You know, increasing numbers are people ordering their products online, expecting next day shipping. The logistics industry is going to continue to grow in importance for our region. Ignoring these changes puts us on a path to economic stagnation. Instead, our region is harnessing this momentum to build a better future for our communities, our children right here in the Inland Empire. The project before you is good for our region, it's good for our economy, and I urge your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Andres Garcia. Andres Garcia. Carol Beswick. I'm sorry, Mr. Garcia, are you next? Is that you, sir? Welcome.
Good morning or good afternoon, not sure what time it is yet. I was lucky enough to attend today's meeting because of the weather. I work for a concrete company and I'm a laborer. So when it rains, I don't have to come in, I don't get scheduled. That's one thing that's been extremely prevalent in my life is work, is labor in general. I grew up on a job site. I was born here in San Bernardino, and so was my grandmother. My grandmother was born in 1924 on Kingman Street in the west side of San Bernardino. So my family's been here for almost 100 years. I grew up spending time doing additions with my dad, grading, backbreaking work if you've ever done it. And that's something I have in common with all these guys in the orange shirts is I'm definitely all in for labor, for good jobs. But I also know the fact of the matter is when you work in construction, you have to ignore a lot of the aches and pains that you get when you get up at 3 in the morning. I get 1 a.m. start time sometimes. I'll go in at 9 p.m. and work till 9 a.m. or 10, depending on if we're doing 600 yards or 1,000 yards.
And I think that's really critical when you consider all of this, is that are these jobs actually going to make it worth it for these men to get up every day? You know, are they going to have benefits themselves? Because not all the labor is going to come from organized, unionized labor. There's going to be all types of different contractors that get subbed out to do different types of work. And that's the honest truth about these types of projects. And we can't even really begin to address any of it because we don't really know the impacts of it all. We don't know what's underneath all the concrete that's existing there. Like I said, I work in a concrete company and I breathe in silica all day. I actually get made fun of by some of the guys at work because I wear a mask, because I wear a respirator. They think it's goofy. They think I'm some kind of sissy because I don't want to breathe in silica. Because I don't want to breathe that stuff in all day. Now I have to reduce it to only when I wear it under the plant. So consider this, like, when you're going forward, what's underneath that concrete? What's underneath all that? What's the real risk of you guys stepping in the dirt? Steel-toe boots aren't going to cover radioactive material. The speaker's time is expired.
Morning, Chairman Valdivia, board members. My name is Carol Beswick. I'm the CEO of Inland Action. Previously the mayor of Brownlands, and I actually served on the South Coast Air Quality Management District Board for a time. So I'm focused on the environmental aspects of this project as well personally. Inland Action has been an integral part of the history of Norton Air Force Base and more recently San Bernardino International Airport. Our focus is on the economic success of our entire region, and your action today could mean a huge step in increasing that economic stability. Our members are in complete support of the approval of the land lease that will lead to a long-awaited step in returning the airport to full aviation use. The Eastgate Air Cargo Logistics Center is precisely the kind of project that we have anxiously anticipated. Environmentally friendly in every aspect. It has been carefully constructed that way and located in an area that is completely appropriate for the uses proposed. So our members, thank you for the work that you're doing to see San Bernardino International Airport moving to realizing its full potential, and we look forward to your executing the lease today.
Our next speaker is Alex Artiaga.
Good morning, commissioners, members of the board. My name is Alex Artiaga. I'm the business manager of LIUNA, Local 783, located right in San Bernardino. We're 1,700 members throughout San Bernardino and Onono counties, 37,000 members in Southern California. Now, we are here to come to speak in favor of the ground lease agreement between San Bernardino Airport and Hillwood Enterprises. Our union was started in 1943, and our office is just a stone's throw away from the San Bernardino Airport. We have served the San Bernardino community by putting members of this community to work for over 76 years. We are woven into the very fabric of this city. We administer an exclusive hire and haul for our members who will be working on the construction of this airport. They look forward to the good wages and benefits offered by a project like this located right in their backyards. It's not often we get to work this close to home, and I want to say that we could have each and every one of these guys fill out a comment card, and out of respect for your time and everybody's time, I think I can speak for all of them when I say we support this project. Build this project here in San Bernardino. Support the community of the men and women who work here. We need the work.
I work here.
We are here today to support this project. We support working San Bernardino families, and we support the lease agreement. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We, at this time, if you wish to speak, we're concluding our public comment section. Mr. Huber, do you have any final comments?
Yeah, I want to make sure that everybody who wants to speak has had an opportunity. Is there anybody who has not had an opportunity to speak or would like to speak now? Please come, if you do, please come forward.
While we do that, we will collect your blue slips. We're going to take a 5-minute recess. We'll be back in 5 minutes, if that's okay. Go ahead, Mr. Kim.
Good morning, Commission. It's nice to see you all. Last time I was here, I asked a question. Has this body done enough for the community? And the scheduling of this meeting raises questions for me about this body. I found a book on management by Reinhold Mohn. He's passed away, but he talks about that he's a German philanthropist. And the Mohn family owns Random House Penguin, which has been wholly bought by Edelson, which is a German company. He writes, in the last decade, the organization of stock corporations, stock management, has increasingly moved into a thought of both more broadly isolated public and the discussion among professionals regarding business management and the legal aspects thereof. There are numerous and diverse reasons for this. The lack of consideration for the legitimate public interest when public policy discussions are made is part of this. As we see spectacular corporate collapses, raising questions regarding the timely recognition of business leadership and surpassing bodies of supervising bodies, as well as crisis prevention by management. Reckless and often absurd corporate takeovers resulting from the omnipotence and bravado of a particular kind of business personality in efforts to sufficiently discourage this type of behavior of executive and supervising boards, and spectacular cases of failure to ensure continuity when filling company top management positions are further exemplary reasons for the current discussion questioning our top management ability to function. I know that this project is an opportunity for the community. Anyone who follows global logistic industry knows that it is one of the biggest opportunities for this area. South Korean executives are here looking at this airport, as you know, because Incheon Airport in Korea is the largest logistics hub in the world, and they want to be here.
Thank you, sir, for the council. I believe there's someone else who wanted to speak that stood up earlier. If there are no presents, we are going to take a 5-minute break. Thank you.
Into service in the early 1940s, the underlying property was federally restricted. It still is today. And then when the base closure was announced in 1988, that federal restriction transitioned from Department of Defense to FAA. And the ultimate conveyance of our airport deed to SBIAA in 1999 carried specific base reuse aeronautical restrictions on the property. These are covenants that run with the land. It makes it very different from other parcels or projects that Hillwood develops, not just here or elsewhere. In our case, because it's in our deed, violation of these covenants can actually result in SBIAA losing the airport asset itself. Now, you have to have a pretty serious infraction for that, thankfully, but they are serious covenants. So as a post-BRAC airport, SBIAA has really tried to hold itself to these stringent standards for compliance. Number one, it's required. Number two, it's important. But unlike other projects at Alliance California, the Eastgate property carries these FAA use and compliance restrictions. Parcels like Stater Brothers, Pep Boys, and others do not. Eastgate is an air cargo facility. I know on some of the graphics it might look like a warehouse, but it has specific aeronautical restrictions that say it must be used for specific purposes. What we've been engaged in since the summer of 2018 has been a federal environmental and compliance review process pursuant to those deed obligations. It's been lengthy and involved. CEQA compliance was met in October of 2018. Thus, there are no CEQA findings in front of you to consider today. The ground lease agreement, as has been mentioned, was originally approved in December of 2018, subject to one and only condition, FAA review of the lease document. So we're here today because FAA has approved the final form of the lease. The review resulted in several technical corrections to the compliance portion, particularly of the agreement. The business terms remain the same. Therefore, ratification of the final form of the lease per the 2018 approval is the only matter on your agenda today. But the federal environmental review and approval is FAA's decision, and we've been having to follow FAA regulations throughout this process. SBIAA, because of those covenants, must follow FAA guidance on every procedure under that process. We have done that, and as has been mentioned, on December 23rd, late, the FAA decided to issue its record of decision for the Eastgate project. So in an effort to provide the Commission and the public the most current information, we scheduled the public meeting at the earliest opportunity. The environmental document and decision, as I mentioned, are FAA's documents, but we are governed by them and must follow their required procedures also on distribution of the documents themselves. By FAA requirements, distribution of the FAA's documents will be by publication in newspapers, posting at libraries, and publication in the Federal Register. So today's meeting is an effort to provide all information as timely as possible under those parameters. There's over 4,000 pages of content in FAA's documents. And in the interest of disclosure and transparency, all of the FAA's documents, as well as contact information to FAA for any questions, concerns, are as of today published on our homepage of our SBIAA.org website. That is something that we wanted to do to make sure we got the information out as quickly as we possibly could. We have worked extensively with FAA and a number of agencies and organizations. And again, we appreciate the multitude of input that we have received. And for the Commission's purposes, we are here to address this last condition, the ratification of the lease. That is the FAA's approval of the form of that agreement. So we've got General Counsel and Special Counsel here so that details and questions can be answered. It is a very important project, and a great many have provided feedback along the way. So before we get into any specifics of the lease, Mr. John Magnus with Hillwood is here today and would like to provide the most up-to-date context as to where the project is today. Mr. Magnus. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission, thank you for the opportunity to come before you to talk a little bit about the ground lease and the events leading up to the ground lease. As Mike mentioned, with the closure in 1994, we were fortunate enough to meet each other in '99 and begin redevelopment of the Norton Air Force Base in 2002. And we've been working on the non-airport portion of it since then. One important fact, and in our job numbers, none of those include the great work that's gone on in the airport so far, and so you'd have to add the airport jobs to the totals that we're going to talk about. But important to this discussion is that we've been in earnest efforts with the airport to try to bring a carrier here to the airport. So much so in 2004 we put our reputation and a relationship with an air carrier on the line and brought them to the airport, had them fly in 2 fully loaded 747s full of cargo, bypassing LAX to try this airport on for size. And that was in 2004. Very eye-opening. Some things needed to change at the airport in order to get a scheduled carrier in here. We've been working since then with the airport, and the commission has done a phenomenal job of doing the important housekeeping work, lengthening the runway, widening the runway, putting in a new ILS system, the landing system, preparing for this day so that we could bring a carrier in. So a lot of work has gone on to get us to this point. We do tie it to Alliance California because the property in itself was covered by a specific plan that was included in the Alliance California original specific plan. So we talk about the project Alliance California as having created over 12,000 jobs. The investments to date are before you. We've made partner payments. So important to this project is we succeed, our partner the IVDA succeeds in so much as that we pay them a percentage of our profits for the project. So we've been able to not only make land payments, but profit participation payments. That's all separate and above from the tax revenue that's been generated for this project to date, and the fees that have gone to the city and to the county, and the economic impact is now over $2 billion. When we started the project, we promised 3 things. And those 3 things were to increase the tax base, bring jobs back to Norton, and to change the landscape by tearing down the old and building the new. At the Eastgate project, there hasn't been a building out there since close to 1960 when it was cleared. We are taking that property and putting it back onto the tax rolls. It's generating 0 tax for the surrounding communities today, and after we're done, it'll be a significant windfall for the taxing jurisdictions. So how did we get here? We're going to go back in time before 2018. When the airport improvements were made in 2014, we started marketing the airport to air carriers. In 15 and 16, we got some trials. We got 1 or 2 flights during the peak seasons from a variety of carriers, and it seemed to be onto something. They liked what they saw here. They liked the customer service. They liked the fueling capabilities. They liked the ramp space. And they like the ability to fly in and out or not wait behind a Southwest airline at Ontario. So they was able to, through the partnership with the airport, put 2 carriers into existing hangars. And that's great, but there's no new construction on the airport. No new buildings have been built since the base closed. I think I'm right about that. So no new buildings on the airport since the base closed. This will be the first that we're proposing. So that all came up to 2016 when we started the CEQA process. 2016, we started submitting paperwork to the city of San Bernardino and the state in order to receive permission, the entitlements that everybody seeks in order to build this facility. That was in 2016. 2018 in October, after much study of the many, many documents related to noise, air quality, water quality, cultural studies, endangered species studies, all of that was put in and put before the state and the city of San Bernardino, who ratified the CEQA process and presented us with our entitlements in October of 2018. In December, We brought the ground lease before the commission, and the commission voted to approve the ground lease, subject to, as the director said, the final NEPA approval from the FAA, and also the FAA's concurrence on the ground lease. In December of this year, so a full year and a half after we started, almost 2 years after we started the process through the FAA, we received the record of decision earlier this month. Now we're back before you as fast as we could schedule a hearing or a meeting to come bring the ground lease for ratification. That's kind of the sequence of events. As you know, this is not my first time in front of the commission. We've been talking about building air cargo on the airport for almost 20 years. The studies for this have taken many, many years, dating back to our first submittal 2016. So almost 3 full years of study and scrutiny on this. Think of also the coordination that needed to be done with the surrounding jurisdictions, with Colton, Redlands, Loma Linda, Highland, San Bernardino County. A lot of meetings and a lot of discussions about what is the benefit for these jurisdictions and for the airport. So the project itself is designated for air cargo use by authority of the FAA, says you can't use it for anything else. We have about 100 acres, a little less than 100 acres within the premises. The building itself will be about 658,000 square feet. We'll have 2 smaller buildings that'll handle ground support equipment and maintenance. Most carriers require that. They don't like to take up the floor space inside the building for that, so we try to position that outside. We can support 14 aircraft today. Hopefully the airport continues to grow and we can support more, but that's what it should look like once we get a carrier to come in. This is a very labor-intensive industry, so we'll have a lot of car parking, trailer parking for the incoming and outgoing freight, but also use of public transportation as much as possible. In fact, it's mandated that we do that as well. So we'll go into some of the features of the building in a moment. We mentioned the state CEQA process, not for the faint of heart, very hard to get that done and get it done in a reasonable amount of time because there's so much scrutiny put to the environmental side and to make sure that we have the proper clearances from all of the agencies involved. Once it was approved by yourselves, the board, back in October, we then moved through the NEPA process. Very interesting point is that we had, although the AQMD had already signed off on the project through the CEQA process, we get to do it again through the NEPA process. But thankfully, South Coast was able to grant their approval and through a thorough evaluation, allow it to move forward. So the project itself, we know that today, in the time in past, 30, 40 years ago, where you can put up 4 walls and not care about the environment, are over. So you need to go into it with a sense of sustainability. Electric cars and electric trucks are coming faster than we all care to admit, so we need to be ready for that. So we'll have electric vehicle charging stations for the building. Fuel-efficient vehicles are mandated by both the federal process and the state process. We have bicycle parking. I know the cities of Highland and San Bernardino are working on bike paths all along 3rd Street, so we'll tie into that. We've got incentives for people who don't want to walk across the parking lot as long as they're driving fuel-efficient vehicles. They'll be parking up front. Public transportation stops along 3rd Street, and we're working with the agencies to try to get a stop actually on the premises if we can in order to reduce the amount of congestion. Other sustainable elements of this project, when we first started looking at this, there's no mandate for solar. It is the right thing to do in today's day and age. And so last time we were before you, we talked about building about 3.5 megawatts of solar power. which would be more solar than any other building in Alliance, California. We've since raised the bar even further to a little over 5 megawatts. So this is going to be one of the larger solar projects in the city of San Bernardino, so that we can truly say that we are using some of the renewable energy portions that we can within the building. Every vehicle that'll be working on the airport and within the building will be electrified to the extent that it exists. So today, if there, for instance, is in a fuel truck that's electrified, that'd be a little bit dangerous. We will keep looking for that to make sure that that electrification continues to happen within the premises itself. We've met or exceeded all the tree planting. Remember, there's no trees out there today, so we'll be planting trees within the car parking area. A lot of debris from the old taxiways and roads that were there. We'll be grinding those and only obviously putting down anything that is clean and being able to reduce the amount of material that leaves this site. That's important because nobody likes the trucks that rumble by and dust flying off of it. So we're going to reduce that as much as we can instead of hauling things off to the landfill. And then obviously the state requires environmentally friendly paints to reduce inside the building and outside the building emissions. You've heard a lot about labor unions here today. Probably suffice to say we wouldn't be here without the labor unions on either side of this discussion. But LIUNA, God love them, they have stepped up in a big way. They're coming here when they could be out there working on other projects and decided to come here and support it, for which we're eternally grateful. But there's other labor unions that we have agreements with, not just our general contractor, but our subcontractors as well. We recognize that this is where, specifically steel, electrical workers, plumbers, this is where the best of the best reside. We bid out all our projects. We owe that to ourselves. We owe that to our stakeholders to make sure we get the most cost-efficient and effective building. But sometimes you have to pay up a little bit on some of the trades, but they're all competitive. And so we've got 9 labor unions working on the construction of this building, inside and out. So there's a lot going on inside the building, as you know. So why would the commission approve such a project, and what's in it for the city, the county, and the surrounding cities? I think the figure is around $5 million in new revenue. Why is it around that? We can only do what we can do, and that's to pay the ground lease. What we need is a tenant, and that tenant will be buying lots and lots of fuel and paying lots and lots of landing fees. So we believe that when all added in should be over $5 million in annual new revenue that the airport's not seeing today. This is important because it's been said you can build a mile of freeway, it'll take you a mile, build a mile of runway, and it takes you around the world. And this literally would be the equivalent of building a railroad yard in San Bernardino back at the turn of the century. It connected San Bernardino with everywhere around the United States. In this facility, we'll see freight and people and commerce coming from around the world. And it's an exciting time to see that come to the region. An important note on a lot of airport projects. A lot of airport projects are publicly funded. Why is that? Because they're very, very expensive. And airports look at it and say, I want to invest in new parking areas for airplanes. I want to invest in new taxiways to try to attract carriers that we want to come to this facility. In this case, it's 100% privately funded. So the airport's not having to dip into their revenue in order to build this public infrastructure. And so we'll be building a new taxiway, be building a new hard stand for the airplanes to park on, and that's all privately funded. I'm going to ask for a little bit of help from my associate here, and colleague, at the director of the airport, who without him and his staff, we wouldn't be here. They've been working very, very hard on this. I know this is a year ago. It seems like deja vu. We were here before the commission, and we voted on, you voted on the project and approved it, so we're back. Many of you stop me as you see me in the city and the county and say, when are we starting construction? Well, that time is now, because everything except for the ground lease has been approved. So when we came here last August, August 8th, it was for a public hearing and workshop. We tied both of them together, as the FAA likes to do, and it was conducted by one of the FAA's premier consultants who put the workshop and the hearing together. Many of you may have stopped in during that time, and that workshop went on a long time. And we got a lot of good public input from the community. But we didn't stop there. We wanted to make sure, before we build a project, that it's, one, it's here to stay, and two, that it's supported by the community. And we have over, I think it's 700, 600 public comments that were mailed back to us in support of the project. And that's only from the airport area surrounding the airport, cities all touching the airport. And it was very refreshing to hear, because you listen to the people who yell the loudest, or you can listen to the people who write, and sometimes people who write can carry the day and give some very persuasive arguments. The things that I like seeing were that the time has come for this. We need to get this airport going. This carrier that can occupy a building of this size has got to do great things for the community and do great things for the valley. And to do that, we need a ground lease. And to do that, we need your approval. So we kind of created a little scorecard here of things to think about if we've been through two processes, some would say three now, having been through CEQA and NEPA and different hearings for the ground lease. On each one of those, we've been asked to say, okay, we're going to grant you permission, but you have to do certain things in order to comply with that. So this is a list of the things that talked about air quality, biological, hazardous material, land use, noise. All of those things are conditioned as a part of the project. You'll see things as we permitted through the city of San Bernardino comply with this, and we see things that we go through to the airport for that will comply with this. And it's comforting to know that all of these are covered. If you hear something about noise, you say, oh, let's look in the document. The document covers that. What are the noise mitigation measures? What are you doing on site? How are the airplanes operating? What type of engines are they using? Those are the types of things that are important to the public that are covered in both a California statutory requirement and sometimes a federal requirement. Health and safety. What does the building look like? What does the landscaping look like? Are you using drought-tolerant plants and water resources? And then jobs. I'm going to let Mike talk a little bit about that, because I think it's important to know we can build the facility using union labor because it's, one, they're very good at what they do, and number two, it's cost effective for us. But Mike's going to talk a little bit about what happens after the facility is built.
So one of the things that's unique about the FAA review process is they're in the business of regulating airspace and airports. As far as jobs that get created on airports, there's a whole lot of guidance on how operations occur, but that's not a requirement they specifically make. We have had an agreement with Hillwood here from now going on almost 20 years, and they have volunteered and elected to continue to participate in the annual jobs reporting program that we have had in place. So we actually do a direct count of full-time jobs every single year. The 2019 count is actually being done, and we provide specific in-plan economic analysis as to what those jobs mean, what industries they come from. And this project certainly will include that. In addition, they have agreed to partner, as we have done, with the County Workforce Development Group, who is instrumental to bringing new employees, local employees, to our projects. They can't guarantee local hires, but we can do our best to promote that. So we have agreed to provide an on-site facility for them to do recruitment and training as well. So this room, while we do use this for our commission meetings, has also been used by companies like UPS and FedEx most recently to try and actually train new local employees, which they've had great success with. So when you see that in there, that is actually something that Hillwood has agreed to. It's not conditioned by FAA in that respect. It's something that they've done for years.
So a little bit about what is a community benefits agreement and why would we, you hear it shouted from the back often during these many hearings that we've had, but there's an important reason why we as a developer and the airport as a federally regulated institution would choose to take the direction that we're taking.
And where this unfortunately comes from, because I've learned a lot through this process, and I think these agreements certainly do a lot. Unfortunately, in this particular case, with FAA restrictions on the property, we were not able to find a way to make it work here. And where that comes from, as I previously mentioned, is the deed itself, but also in FAA's determination. And we are regulated by FAA as an airport.
So both the FAA and the airport deed would prohibit that. Also, going back to what we talked about earlier, and that no public funding is going into this construction of this facility or to the improvements that we're putting in. And you know, if people throw out the examples of the LA Live, Staples Center, things like that, those are publicly funded. A lot of public funds went into that for good reason, and possibly community benefits agreement and labor agreements for that. So thankfully, the record of decision was received from the FAA on December 23rd, and I'll leave it to the airport to talk about, you know, what brought us here today.
Yeah, and I just want to reiterate, as much as we would want to control the FAA's process, we couldn't. We have to follow their procedures to a T. And if you had asked me when are they going to be done, I've gotten hundreds of those questions in the last several months. The answer I give is the honest answer. I wish I knew. We talk to them constantly, and they've not given us a date. If you would have asked me 2 weeks ago, last week, we don't know when it comes until they tell us. And they told us late on the 23rd. And that's why we have moved to get the documents in front of everyone as quickly as we can. We didn't think you all wanted to wait to put an ad in a newspaper, especially after all the time people have invested in this project. But we needed some time to get 4,000 pages ready to go. So again, that is FAA's decision, and we are bound by it. We are regulated by it, and they chose the 23rd as their date.
So in summary, what we're asking as the applicant, as a developer who would be signing a ground lease, we're asking you to approve the ratification of the ground lease with the changes that the FAA recommended, and I guess I'd say reapprove based on the changes that the FAA recommended, based on the fact that the economic terms are the same and the language is the same other than and those changes itself. Subject to that and your questions, ready to go.
Very good, thank you.
And then I thought it might be helpful for legal counsel if you would like to explain the nature of FAA's changes to the lease document. Mr. Lewin worked extensively to try to incorporate those, and it did take some time to be able to find a way to get those in the final document. So if you would like.
Mr. Chair, council members, as Mr. Burrows previously may have mentioned, the FAA's review of the lease was much more technical in nature and did not really delve into business points. What they were primarily concerned with was making certain that all FAA regulations, including access to the airfield, compliance with any regulation that would affect air traffic, were both covered in the lease and subject to the FAA's approval with ability to enforce those regulations. They were also very much concerned with what is referred to as the grant assurances, which are provisions of the lease that basically are requirements in order to receive public funding in accordance areas such as grants and other things. It also contained all of the anti-discrimination type provisions, which were shown earlier. While the changes were not, they're large in size, they were really focused in those areas is where they were at. So there is no change in economic terms from what the lease that you had seen back in December of 2018. That is really, as I say, very technical and related to actual airport operations and enforcement of FAA regulations on it. While I have the floor here for a second, I would like to take, with your indulgence, and just address a couple of comments that were made on the lease provisions during the comment session, just so I can have everybody on the same page when it comes to that. There were several discussions that said that we've changed the rental rate from what existed in the 2018 version of the lease and what is before you today. That's not really accurate. I can understand why there may have been a bit of confusion in that, because the staff report in the fiscal section of the 2018 report did contain a typo on what the rental rate was. The rental rate in the body of that staff report is the same as what you see today. It was in the lease is the same as what you see today. And then former Mayor Kerry Davis actually corrected that verbally at the time whenever the matter was being heard. There were other discussions that went on regarding what the rental rate was. Well, I'm not going to delve deeply into that. I will comment just so everybody is fully aware. And as Mr. Magnus has alluded to, this is a ground lease. We are not leasing buildings. We are not leasing facilities that currently exist out there in the airport. The rental rate was based upon the value of ground, unentitled ground at that point. All the financing for that is, as Mr. Magnus has indicated, private financing, including construction of all the facilities, among those which are a additional runway, airplane parkage. It's an area that in the lease is referred to as the airside improvements on it. So there is significant investment in that regard, and once again, the lease rate is not based upon that type of improvements. It's based upon the unimproved ground rent on it. Additional, we receive more than just rent under this lease. Mr. Magnus alluded to it. All the air cargo carriers that will be servicing this facility are required to enter into operating agreements under which they pay the landing fees, the full airport fees, fuel fees. You can find that provision. It's in section 1.5B of the lease that requires that. They basically enter into those directly with the airport, not through the tenant ourselves here. There were mentions made of what are referred to as missing information in the lease. There are several blanks in the lease. They're blank in those sections, and where they are in the term of the lease when it commences, basically commencement date. The reason those are blank is that they are all keyed off of the date of approval. Until we have a date of approval of the lease, we wouldn't be able to populate out those sections. However, you can easily find them from the staff report whenever it indicates that it is 24 months. That 24 months is the build-out period for which they are paying that advance payment. And then after that, you would calculate the term of the initial 35 years, once again, from the approval date. So those blanks, while they may exist, are not unknown and are actually, as soon as you know an approval date, you can find them from the staff report and just simply populate the lease. It's not subject to a future review, approval, or discretion or approval like that. Another comment was made about the use, and a commenter read a provision from section 8.1. And I will open it up, and while I'm not going to read the whole thing to you again, I want to make certain everybody understands how that works. Section 8.1 of the lease deals with what we would call, refer to us as the aviation covenant. And that is the use of this facility for airport operations, air cargo operations. And when you read that in section 8.1A, I would just read that because it is short, handling, storage, and distribution of air freight and cargo goods and air operations, including fuel storage for vehicle equipment and expressly excluding jet fuel storage. Once again, that fuel storage for vehicle would be for their equipment on site, not for fueling of airplanes on it. It then goes on to a section B of that, which calls secondary incidental uses, which does have all sorts of other uses which would relate to the actual operations once the air cargo has arrived and is on the facility to operate. However, it would be a mistake to read that 1B, 8.1B, as saying that you can do all those things and disregard the air cargo use. That is not correct at all. And some of it is, this is a lengthy lease, so it takes a bit of wading through at times to find all these things. But it's in section 8.11, which has a provision that basically describes that they have to use it for air cargo use. And specifically, the section 8.1A. If it is not used for that, the airport has the ability to recover portions of the property, particularly the airside improvements I was speaking of earlier. And finally, just to kind of draw a couple of things together, Mr. Magnus has spoken, you've seen slides on it that talks about compliance. Compliance with all the conditions of approval that would have existed through CEQA with the city of San Bernardino, the FAA conditions of approval that are contained in the A. Those are not expressly enumerated in the lease, but where they are is in section 4.7. And 4.7 mandates compliance with all conditions of approval, including specifically the NEPA ones and the city of San Bernardino conditions of approval. So I'm here available to answer any questions that you may have regarding the lease. I'll leave with that summary.
Then if it pleases the commission, I defer to Mr. Huber for recommendations on next steps for the meeting. Scott?
Well, that essentially concludes staff presentation. It would be appropriate at this time, and we have received a request from one of the groups, and I think it would be appropriate at this time. Sean, read me your last name. Where did Sean go? Sean Martinez wanted to, requested 5 minutes on behalf of the opponents of the project to ask some questions or to make some comments based on the staff report. We had moved the comment period to the front of the meeting, at someone's request, so that, to accommodate speakers who wanted to come and speak and then needed to leave. So I don't know that we'll be able to answer all the questions, but Mr. Chair, if it's okay with your consent, we can give 5 minutes to them.
Sure. Mr. Martinez, please ask your questions.
I'm going to speak with Andrea Vidal as well. I appreciate you all allowing this time. I was under the assumption that we would be able to hear from the airport authority and then, respond with their questions, but I understand that you all were trying to accommodate us from some of our earlier requests when we tried to speak before the meeting. So just wanted to express my appreciation for you all working with us on that. So it's a lot of information to take in. I have a lot of questions. So regarding the operating agreements with the carriers, what carriers does the airport authority currently have operating agreements with, and does that have to change with the magnitude of the work that's going to be done under this new project, whoever the tenant might be?
Yeah, actually, also include Mr. Gibbs in this case I miss anybody, but you've mentioned two of our most recent, UPS and FedEx. So they're required to pay airport fees and charges, as all airport operators are. We have some other agreements with ground handlers and such. That is also a mandate. I mean, you can't operate, just willy-nilly on an airport. It's a highly regulated environment. So will those agreements with UPS and FedEx change because of Eastgate? No, they have their own contracts, and we're bound to those, and they to us in that respect. The operator of Eastgate would have to enter into a separate agreement specific to that facility.
And is that agreement subject to a commission vote, or is that something?
That is not. It's an operating agreement and rules.
That the
and
staff
regulations. Yes, exactly.
negotiate?
So it's a,
Okay,
it's
by
a
themselves.
legal counsel approved form, and that's obviously we had changed the form. We have to do it for everybody, but that is in place now.
Okay. And I just want to clarify, the FAA decision, as far as we know, regarding the NEPA process is not on the docket. We know that you posted on the website this morning. I did ask you last week if that had been concluded and never got a response from you. So, you know, I understand that you're trying to update the commission and update the public as quickly as possible, but we did, you know, seek that information, and that if you would have shared that with us, it might have avoided some of the confusion this morning. So, I don't know.
So I'll actually defer to counsel on that because we have to follow a specific procedure. So
Okay.
Scott, can you take that?
The FAA dictates the procedure that has to be utilized for the NEPA process. It's their document. The hearing that happened back in August, that was the FAA's procedure related to NEPA. It was not, you'll notice, there was no, the commissioners weren't sitting on the dais. It wasn't a Brown Act meeting. It's a process totally controlled by the FAA. What I can say is that we're following the FAA's process. They will publish the document. We will take whatever direction they give to us, as far as if they say, post it on your website, send it to these places. It does have to be publicly, placed in public libraries and certain places.
So part of that was not respond to my email asking for whether that had been finished.
No, not at all, because the only item on consideration is the lease, and the FAA's decision, this body doesn't have discretion over.
I understand. Okay. Question, you said the economic terms of the lease haven't changed. How come there hasn't been a market rate adjustment for the rent over the last year?
With the ground rent for this specific use, we've not seen a market increase in values. If this was a warehouse down the street, absolutely. But for air cargo facilities, this is still fair market value, and that is one of the questions that they asked us. We're required to charge fair market value, and in their review of the lease, they specifically went through that. Yes.
Do you know, is that their process entirely, or is there a process that
it's the airport, and we have to take market comparables from our airport. We don't get to do a whole lot of cross-check with, Ontario and others, because you are comparing apples and apples.
So you only compared whether the rents went up for UPS and FedEx?
No.
Or your other
they're
tenants?
Existing buildings. They're not
existing buildings?
Correct.
Okay. So, but the comparison is only versus other operations that are on this airport property. So you can't compare to rents that have gone up for air cargo facilities at March or Ontario or anywhere else?
We look at them, but we have to index to this facility.
Okay. And that's how the fair market value will be determined for the foreseeable future, because that's in the ground lease, is for 35 years, rent will go up according to fair market value.
No, it escalates 2.69% per annum, and then we have set triggers in the agreement where there is a future fair market value adjustment, which will be a complete reassessment. Council can actually go into more detail if you like.
Okay.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Mr. Martinez.
Can I
appreciate. Yes, sir.
Okay. Just, I want to make it clear for the commission. I mean, we're not saying that the entire process has been rushed, but the fact that this was announced Friday morning and then people are expected to download, which took my computer like 5 or 6 hours, and then read the entire ground lease, and over the weekend during the holiday, I think that this part of the process is rushed, and that's what we're urging, for it to be pushed back. We respect the commission's decision on that. And I would just say, Mr. Magnus's presentation had a lot of good information in it. I think nobody here is against this development. What we're against is the same type of development that's happened in this region for the last 20 years. We have to have a new paradigm. We have to have a community benefits agreement that actually addresses the community's concerns. Nobody's against this. We want Laiuna to get to work. We want people to get to work at this facility, but they need to be taken care of. We need actual
Thank you.
mitigation for environment and good jobs.
We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, we will, we've heard from the public, we've heard from our staff, and now we will turn to our commission members. And for questions or comments, anyone on the commission? Questions or comments?
I just have a few comments to our legal counsel. I want to say I appreciate you clarifying some of the remarks and the information that was provided during the public comment. I appreciate you clarifying some of the factual information that limits us to having to ask you additional information.
Very good. Supervisor.
I would just like to thank everyone for coming out today, bringing up all the great points. I know it's been a very long process, of which I joined midway through. I am still learning. Sean's right, it is a brutal download and a lot of material at a time that is not ideal for anybody in this room. So I appreciate the work that you guys have all put into it. I very much appreciate the public's comment. There are both sides to it. I provided this team at SBIAA what I call the wish list. When we sat down, that were all the things that were a part of a community benefits agreement that maybe we couldn't have by the letter of the law signed by the FAA, but as many of those things that Hillwood and their eventual tenant could provide, that was something that we sought. And we still hope that we can accomplish many of those things, and I know your team is working with Hillwood on that, and we appreciate that. So thank you for all the work, and I'll move on.
Okay, any other commission members?
No, I have nothing, other than I would like to make a motion for, move this item.
Is there a motion?
I'll go ahead and second that with a couple of comments. Having been here for quite a while and hearing some of the speakers talk about how long we've been waiting for this, and not specifically this particular project, but just in general getting this airport going. As many of you know, San Bernardino has suffered through tremendous economic hardships, and some of you may or may not know, but airports are huge economic engines. And to give you some perspective, I know that there's a lot of talk today about the jobs that are created by the construction and the jobs created by people working there. And there's truth, there's definitely some good jobs and some jobs perhaps some other people may not want. But there's another aspect of those jobs that wasn't really addressed in all of your comments, which was the aviation aspect of it. Many of you may not know that there's a huge, huge shortage of mechanics at airports and in aviation. You can now, without a college degree, go to Valley College and get a certification to become an aircraft mechanic, and you can start working at this airport for as much as $70,000 to $80,000. Average salary for someone with a mechanic is well over $100,000. The other aspect that people may not understand is the fact that there's a shortage of pilots, huge shortage. And having spent a lot of time here and talking to a lot of pilots, I've talked to pilots from FedEx and UPS and corporate pilots, and they are truly gods. I mean, they write their own ticket. We have a school that was established here at the airport to try to train pilots because they understand there's a shortage, not only here in the US, but around the world. I have met pilots who are making $300,000 a year. $300,000 a year. And the reason for doing that is because they work part-time for companies like FedEx and UPS and Southwest, and then the other part-time for corporate aviation. So the opportunity that this facility brings to this area goes way beyond the $17 jobs. These are people who are buying $300,000 and $400,000 houses in Highland, in San Bernardino, and Loma Linda. So this airport has the opportunity to turn this area around in ways that goes beyond just worrying about whether a package gets here on time. I think one other thing that we should point out is that we want to be able to provide everybody the opportunity to work in every single aspect of this industry. And I think there's opportunities everywhere depending on skill level and education. And as much as I enjoy having you all here, it would thrill me more to see all of you fly out of here, because we still have an empty terminal that we're hopefully to get an airline here so we can all use to go visit our family, our friends, move in and out of the area. Because once this airport can truly take off, then this area will flourish beyond. And I think someone pointed out that the unemployment rate was like 14, 15% in 2009. It has dropped down to 3%. I believe the economy is going to suffer soon. I know everybody's been waiting for it, and it will happen. But yet, we are in a position to try to counter that by bringing as much activity to this area as we can, and we all benefit, all of us, not one particular group or the other. Every single person benefits when this airport takes off. So with that in mind, thank you so much for all your work. The staff, we've been working on this for a long time, and I appreciate that we've finally reached that point. Thank you.
Okay, members, there's been a motion for approval in a second. Are there any final comments from commission members? I want to say thank you to all of our staff for your hard work and our staff attorneys. We appreciate all your legal counsel. This has been a long process forward. It's been fair and equitable, and this is a great project. I'll be supporting it. Madam Clerk, if you'd, let's do a roll call on this. Let's make the roll call.
All right. We have a motion from Member Woods and a second from Member Popescu. Please state your name as saying aye for Member Woods.
Aye.
Member Popescu.
Aye.
Member Rao.
Yes.
Member Lilburn.
Yes.
Member Valdivia.
Yes.
And Member Sanchez.
Yes.
Thank you. It was unanimously approved.
Okay, final comments from commission members. Seeing none, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.